I was in a Discord server and someone said that they've never played Sonic Colors and wanted to try out the new re-release coming out. I asked if they'd played Sonic Forces and in jest, suggested that if they had, they'd essentially played the same game. I wouldn't say the people in the server got mad, but they did vehemently disagree with me, but not with much more than, well, Sonic Forces is bad and Sonic Colors is good. How can they be similar? Obviously, these two games do have their differences, but I think they do share a bunch of similarities. That's at least what I felt when I originally played Sonic Forces for the first time, but their disagreement did make me want to reconsider the two games, and it made me want to ask the question once again, what truly is the difference between Sonic Colors and Sonic Forces? Once a year I tend to go back and play through or at least touch as many Sonic games as I can get my grubby little paws on, and this year I kept it to PC on the Steam games, so I noticed something when I played Sonic Forces after a while. I realized that Sonic Forces 3D level design is better than I originally thought, and I always thought it was better than Sonic Colors. But that feeling of a similarity that I got when I initially played the first time didn't seep in as hard as it did before, and I thought it was going a little crazy. But then I unlocked the extra stages and I went, oh, this is where it all was. It was here. It's very obvious. They're reusing game assets and gameplay elements from Sonic Colors. It makes sense why I left the game feeling the way that I did. But that playthrough did make me want to reassess the games even further again. I feel like the answer is pretty obvious in what it is and the difference of these games are, but please humor me as I do the one thing that I really don't like doing ever, which is assuming how other people feel about media. So, how can a pared down Wii game between Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Generations be so similar to the first true sequel to Sonic Generations? Well, first off, they're led and directed by the same person, Morio Kishimoto, so that helps a lot. People really like to bring up how Sega lied in their initial trailer about who was actually working on the game, but when your lead game designer and lead director are the same person, those two games are probably going to end up being pretty similar. Not to say that the man can't make something else, it's just his tendencies will show through. And besides, most of that Generation credit that they mentioned worked on the Hedgehog engine too, the graphics engine. Not a lie, but not what we expected or wanted. But since we brought it up, let's actually talk about that game design and level design. Something tangible. Wait, it's a video game. Are video games tangible? Yeah, I can hold video games, fine, whatever. The origin of this video was me just talking about the difference in 3D level design between these two games, but that snowballed into what you see before you. A lot of critique for Sonic Forces 3D level design is that it's boring, empty, straight line, boost to win gameplay that Sonic is normally mocked for, and it's pretty much true for the most part. Unless you go out of your way to get red rings, the levels are painfully straightforward with little challenge and incentive to explore, and the small deviations that are there are short-lived and don't really feel like they save you that much time. I mean, they do, but they don't feel like they do. And Sonic Colors, on the other hand...
So I don't know why people complain so bad about this being...
Here, let me put it like this. I'm fine with this game, it's a good game, but I really hate when people say this is my favorite 3D Sonic game. It's not 3D.
It's not 3D.
The 3D
There's no 3D.
Suck. They're bad.
Oh, yeah.
They're empty.
That was almost 10 years ago. And people say the Sonic Colors pushback is a somewhat recent development. My point is that all the criticisms people have with Sonic Forces game design at its core can be found in Sonic Colors at its core. Classic Sonic notwithstanding. Personally, I'd say it's worse in Colors in terms of its 3D level design after going back to both so close together. Sonic Colors' idea of interesting 3D level design is hiding springs out of view, or maybe a sneaky freefall section. But most of its interesting 3D level design is finding an automated gimmick to push you forward. Colors does its best to try and emulate Unleash's level design, where you can see different paths and deviations throughout your run, and you know you're missing out on a different option a lot of the time that's based on abilities you unlock later in the game. The problem is that these alternate paths aren't that interesting, and the form of movement isn't as kinetic as it could be because Wisp activation is pretty stop and go for the most part. While Unleash wants you to come back with new abilities and the skill to use them, Sonic Colors mostly just wants you to have them, and using them only becomes difficult if you want red rings, and by difficult I mostly mean tedious. The game's overall design is mostly based on exploration, which isn't bad, but that exploration isn't to be had much in its 3D sections. Sonic Forces, on the other hand, takes a more Generations approach to its level design, in that the optional path is right in front of you, but you might be moving too fast to see it in the first place, and you'll never really know about it unless you're keeping a really good eye out for it. As for the Avatar, they too use Wisp, but because Forces is less exploration based than Colors, its use is a bit more kinetic and flows a bit better, even if it boils down to most of the time hit Orange Ring Loop with Burst Wisp. Follow Ring Chain with Electric Wisp. But in terms of just its 3D level design, Sonic Forces is one singular step above Sonic Colors, but that's because it asks for a bit more input for a bit less automation in its game design. Overall in its 3D level design, I'd say Sonic Colors is a pretty rigid game. Rigid like, there's only one drift section where you can die, and it's optional path that's worthless and you'd never go down it if you had the choice kind of rigid. It's very odd when I think about it overall. I think the biggest difference between these two games is a sense of freedom that Sonic Forces is able to give you. It's not a lot, and it's very jank, but the fact that it's there does a lot for me. By freedom, I mean bits like this bit in Aqua Road where you can jump water slide to water slide. It's really cool. Don't do it. It's really jank. Don't do it. Or this bit in Capital City where you can make this jump. Don't do it. It's really jank. Please don't. Or this bit in Egg Gate where you can skip this spring and just boost out into space and hit the rail. You can do this one. This one's really safe. If you mess up, you just hit the spring and it's automated anyway. Or I mean, you could just miss the jump, but like, that's your fault. And everything about Motar Canyon. Motar Canyon is fantastic. Motar Canyon is a good example of the freedom in this game, in its game design and how they set it up. Even bits of its level design is really good. The problem is the clash between that game design and that level design, because if you hit the boost just right, you just go flying over the whole damn thing. It's great. I love it. It's awful. It's bad. It's my favorite bad thing. But I think that is the biggest difference between these two games, and why I think Sonic Forces, for Morio Kishimoto and the boost games that he's developed, is a singular step above Sonic Colors. Let that sink in on what I really just said and how bad that actually is. I don't want to turn this into an actual review of both games, so let's keep this as concise as I can. Both games' 2D level design exemplify their overall game design the most. Sonic Colors is very explorative, while Sonic Forces focuses on speed and finding the fastest route. Sonic Forces takes almost no time at all to beat, while Sonic Colors pads itself out with blocky, slow, gimmicky levels that take no time to beat. I think both games have their own control issues, Sonic Colors leaning more to its button layout. Sonic Forces being a little bit harder really shows why they gave Sonic a double jump in the first place. Not having a double jump in Sonic Forces sucks. Then we come to the elephant in the room that messes up a lot of this comparison contrast, and that's Classic Sonic. So I think Classic Sonic's level design is pretty good, a bit derivative. I think he controls well for the most part on flat ground and movement. It's just how he interacts with the level that's really, really bad, and he just hits this wall really hard or really slow. It depends. Remember when I said like it takes more than a game designer, lead director, and level designers to make a video game? It also takes programmers, and they didn't share enough of those either, I guess. So let's wrap this up with a nice little red bow and talk about how the red rings kind of shape the general gameplay of both games. Sonic Forces expects you to run through the level multiple times to pick up all 5 red rings, and you can generally get an S rank on each of those runs. Mostly. Sonic Colors, on the other hand, expects you to pick up most of, if not all of them, to get your S rank for that stage. That's why I keep saying Sonic Colors is an exploration-focused game, even if both have the same mechanic. But what does that mean after you've collected all the red rings in Sonic Colors? Well, like most Sonic games, you focus on the fastest route, but you start to notice how empty that route is, because a lot of the difficulty in the stage is to find the red rings that you no longer need. A lot of the Wisp use in the stage is to find those red rings that you no longer need. You notice how many of the Wisps aren't really focused on moving you forward or focused on speed itself, and you notice how short the stages start to feel in and of themselves. You start to be reminded of a game that's recently released. That's not recent, it's been almost 4 years. We're gonna go 5 years without a new mainline Sonic game. That's not to say anything about the development of the new game, that's just a fact that I'm stating. So we talked about gameplay, so now let's talk about the systems on which they were released on, because that's a point people brought up when I said that thing that I said. Sonic Forces is a game that released on all major platforms at the time of its release, not only bound to the Nintendo console like Lost World was to the Wii U, and with expectations set by Sega themselves, people were looking forward to the first true follow-up after Sonic Generations. They didn't get that game, but I think overall it used its systems well enough. The game looks very nice, it runs at a smooth 60 frames per second, unless you're playing on Switch, and there's hardly any bugs in there, and if there are, you have to go out of your way to find them or get like really unlucky. There's this one area with like really bad pathing when you boost, but like it's just really weird because the game overall has very aggressive pathing, and it stands out not as a bug, but just like, why this one part though? Sonic Colors, on the other hand, is a game that sits between Unleashed and Generations on a weaker system at that, but it does do its best to try and match their basic gameplay mechanics. Now, I think we can all agree that being on weaker hardware can indeed hold a game back. You know, graphics can't be the same, not as many enemies can be on screen, draw distance is reduced, but the level design and mechanics from Sonic Unleashed aren't any of those things, and our proof of that is the Wii version of Sonic Unleashed, whose full first non-tutorial level, which isn't even its full first real full-fledged level mind you, will ask more out of you than most of Sonic Colors will its whole time. Sonic Colors being on the Wii is not an excuse for its exceedingly simple level design, it was dialed back on purpose. I guess for a final bit we can talk about the stories in the briefest of terms. When it originally came out, people were pretty okay with Colors' more straightforward plot and child-oriented jokes and dialed-back cast, but over time people have become less enamored by it. People even blame it for the cause of the series to have an overall shift in tone that's carried its way into Sonic Forces, even though that game tried to give us a more serious story overall. Sonic Forces then proceeds to further disappoint by using past characters as props and throwing past character traits into the trash for the sake of a poor narrative. Sonic Colors' saving grace is that its story isn't actively bad. Its jokes can just kinda drone on, and on, and on, and on. You see, it's funny because the joke drawed on, and the punchline of most Sonic Colors bits is that you, the viewer, aren't laughing at my bad joke, and you laugh at the fact that the joke didn't land. That's it. That's how Sonic Colors tells jokes. That's all I got. Baldy McNosehair. So it's finally time to get to the most important point, and something I've been sprinkling throughout this whole video, and that is perspective. The difference of expectations in these two games is the difference between night and day, and to fully understand that, we have to talk about the games leading up to them for it to really sink in. Sonic Unleashed came out 2 years after Sonic 06, which is crazy in retrospect, but then you remember its frame rate. But that drastically changed the style of Sonic in 3D. It brought over the boost style gameplay that was received so well in the Rush games, and I felt it stuck the landing for the most part in that area. The only thing holding it back was the inclusion of the Werehog, who wasn't completely terrible, but overstayed its welcome. Even though it's not considered a mainline game, the last platforming game for the Wii was Sonic and the Black Knight. People say it's better than Secret Rings, but I think most people still don't want to see a continuation of that game series, at least not its gameplay. So, when Sonic Colors comes out and trims all of the fat that people don't want, it's obviously going to be received really well, no matter how toned down it might be. Its simpler game design also made it easier for people unfamiliar or put off by the previous 3D titles to get in. They don't know why they can get in, but it's obvious that they don't have to deal with the previous game's 3D level design that they probably didn't like all that much. Sonic Colors was made for a younger audience, so it was made to be dialed back from the start. But people don't notice that, and people don't care because at its core, Sonic Colors is just fine. No one was expecting Colors to be great, so it's propped up by what it isn't more so than what it actually is. When Colors came out, the Sonic series was in the midst of being thought of as bad overall, in the midst of, was Sonic ever really good? Sonic Colors reminded people that Sonic could be good, even when it's just fine. And continuing to ride that wave of good vibes, we get Sonic Generations, the true successor to Sonic Unleashed, and it's met with even more praise. Sonic isn't just good anymore, it's great. And while there were some other games in there that weren't received as well, people were able to perceive them as the side endeavors that they were. And then Sonic Lost World came out, radically changed everything that was built up in the mainline Sonic series. It was so different people had to approach it as something new altogether, and all their past feelings didn't matter anymore. It was a game that needed to be made because Sega still had a deal with Nintendo to give them one final game. It came out on another underpowered console that people had every right to not have any faith in, and while not a complete garbage fire, I think it's safe to say that Sonic Lost World is less than fine, and people didn't have much hope or expectations to begin with. And then we had the game that was announced alongside Sonic Forces, the return of 2D Sonic with Sonic Mania. While not developed by Sonic Team themselves, people still loved this modern take on a 2D style with a mix of classic and new stages. The people's spirits were raised once again, and with that, Sonic Forces was announced. The trailer opens with a big print telling you that it's from the team that brought you Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations, and everyone was excited about Lost World being thrown under the bus. Personally, I thought, well, why'd they bring up Sonic Colors though? Then in the middle of it all, Classic Sonic shows up and the people were a little weary. Not in the sense of like, oh no, Classic Sonic, but like, well, he's getting his own game. And that was great for one game, but I kinda want just normal 3D Sonic. But because it's from the people that brought you Sonic Generations, you give them the benefit of the doubt of Classic Sonic at least being as good as he was there. They were wrong, y'all were wrong, but we did it. Finally, the Avatar trailer happened and, well, at least my Twitter popped off. I follow a lot of Sonic fans. For as much as people made jokes about original the character Do Not Steal, it was all in good fun and most thought of it as a great idea for the series to prop up one of its most beloved fandom activities. It also brought back the Wisps, which people were starting to tire of as well, but the implementation of Wisp puns made people come around on it again. Sonic Forces was looking to be a pretty great game. And then it wasn't. It wasn't great. It's hard to say it's good, but it is just fine. It was a complete step backwards from the game it was trying to imitate and came out on a system that was more powerful as well, and people just didn't vibe with it. Sonic Colors had everything to gain by being as basic as possible, while Sonic Forces had everything to lose by being just fine. Both are watered down versions of the previous games they were trying to emulate, but one had more baggage to carry than the other. I started this video by asking the question, what really is the difference between Sonic Colors and Sonic Forces, and I feel that answer is pretty obviously perception and expectations. Classic Sonic notwithstanding. And that's super fair. Disliking Sonic Forces more than Colors because it disappoints you more is valid, but saying one is worse than the other because of those feelings aren't as valid. The pettiness of this video is me complaining about people calling Sonic Colors one of the best 3D Sonic games. If you're the type of person that goes, hey, Sonic Colors is one of my favorite 3D Sonic games, hey, that's because there's hardly any 3D in it. There's nothing I can do about that. That's your opinion, that's your feelings. That's fine. You feel the way you feel. But if you're the type of person that goes, Geez, Sonic Forces gameplay is terrible. Brought by the people that did Generations? It's not even as good as Sonic Colors. I'm gonna roll my eyes and look at you kinda funny. The reasonable part of this video is that I don't even mind games like Sonic Colors or Forces. Even a Sonic Lost World is... No, Sonic Lost World isn't fine. But I think people would be well more receptive to these dialed back games if our expectations were properly set. Sonic is already a budget series, but think about what they could do if they, upped the mainline games and really gave them that $60 push, and these Colors Forces type games come out at $40 and you're not expecting as much from them. And then you get an occasional downloadable only $20 Sonic Mania every once in a while. You spread it out. Let me get time to get my money and pay for all these great games. Possibly, maybe. This got really selfish really fast, but to be reasonable once again, these types of games are fine, you just need to promote and sell them reasonably. And speaking of being reasonably sold, mostly, Sonic Colors Ultimate is coming out next month. So let's ask a better question. In the year 2021, when the last mainline game was Sonic Forces, will people see Sonic Colors differently? Doubt it. For as much praise as it gets, Sonic Colors is still thought of as a small Wii game, so as long as it gets a nice new coat of paint and it runs at 60 FPS, people will eat it up. I'm sorry, Switch owners, once again you have to make a sacrifice. But what about Sonic Forces? Will people stop overblowing its faults? Hell no! Even if that person says Colors is pretty mid, and they think Forces is pretty mid, it will take a lot for them to use both games in that same sentence. Unless they're me. Somewhere in there's a good video about how people view mediocrity, but now's not the time. Unless it's prolific in the most grandiose way, I think it takes a while for a game to escape its emotional criticisms and even its emotional praises. But video games, no form of media mind you, can be reviewed in a vacuum, and it will always be compared to its contemporaries, and nothing is a more fair comparison than the games within its own series. So personally, for Morio Kishimoto and making a boost-styled Sonic game, I think Sonic Forces is a step in the right direction from Sonic Colors. But both games still sit next to comparable games that surpass them at what they're trying to do, and the length between them is so large that it's sad. What's the point of this video? Was it to say that Sonic Colors is actually garbage and here's why? No. Was it to say that Sonic Forces is secretly a masterpiece? Nah, that's at Sonic 06 video making levels. I can't keep up with them, they're beyond me. I just want to broaden people's horizons a little bit, get my shitty opinion out there if you know what I mean. I just want people to express themselves a little bit better, honestly. If your feelings just end at like and dislike, I can't do anything about that. That's actually your truest opinion, and no one can fight you on that. If you like Sonic Colors and hate Sonic Forces, like Sonic Forces, hate Sonic Colors, you hate both, you like both, I don't care. But when it goes beyond just like and dislike, when you start explaining different bits on why you think something's good and something's bad, then you need a bit more. You need to make me believe in what you're saying, even if I don't agree with it. It's not about being right or wrong, it's about having that other person understand where you're coming from. So all in all, play Sonic Colors, play Sonic Forces, think twice to post once, edit that mistake you just made, and until we meet again, mata ao, until we meet again.